This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Moscow threatens to close down the Jewish agency, and Jews wanting to immigrate to Israel are being warned to get out fast. And a CBN ministry team is kidnapped by Russian soldiers in Ukraine. Plus, the famous Magdala stone returns home to the Galilee. And a unique program in Jerusalem to address the problem of child sex abuse. All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl, filling in for Chris Mitchell. Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine is resulting in Moscow putting pressure on Israel, and that could possibly stop Russian Jews from immigrating to Israel. In a Moscow court, Russia's Justice Ministry moved to ban operations of the Jewish agency. While foreign organizations have faced increasing pressure in Russia for years, threats recently ramped up.
For the last 8 years, since Russia started its war against Ukraine, when they occupied Crimea, they were demanding that they would stop collecting information about citizens of Russia and transferring it to the West. But of course, for Jewish agency, it's a ridiculous demand because that's exactly what Jewish agency is doing.
The Jewish agency is responsible for worldwide immigration to Israel. Former chairman Natan Sharansky, a Russian Jew and human rights advocate, helped clear the way for the exodus of 2 million Soviet Jews starting in 1986.
We should not be desperate. At the same time, I'm warning all our friends in Russia and Ukraine that those who are seriously thinking about Aliyah should better do it as quickly as possible, because the situation is worsening very quickly.
Nearly 20,000 Russian Jews have immigrated to Israel since the invasion started, along with some 16,000 Ukrainian Jews.
And there are another 20,000 in the pipeline. My estimation is that approximately 3 times more Jews will come from Russia than from Ukraine.
In Russia, he says, citizens are losing freedoms at such a rate, it's a reminder of communist Soviet rule.
Wow. When I sentenced for high treason, exactly in what Jewish agency is accused now. The only freedom which is still left is freedom of immigration. And who knows how long it will exist. That's why Jews who are concerned, they are finding themselves in fair society, in closed society, they're in a hurry to leave.
Pinchas Goldschmidt, who served as chief rabbi of Moscow, couldn't return from a trip because he didn't support the war in Ukraine. He's now in exile.
These are complicated times, and there are many dark clouds on the horizon, also for the Jewish community. And this has been reflected in a great exodus of members of the Jewish community who have left Russia since the beginning of the war.
Svetlana and her husband made Aliyah from Russia 2 months ago. We've hidden her identity to protect her family in Russia.
We are very happy that we made this decision. The political tension is rising, and the activity of Sakhnut is apparently being questioned at the moment by Russian authorities. Not a lot of people can actually leave.
Rabbi Goldschmidt says tens of thousands more Jews in Moscow with Israeli citizenship simply left. He expects the trend to continue. 10 members of a CBN Orphans Promise group in Berdansk, Ukraine, have been taken captive by Russian soldiers. They were kidnapped while helping evacuate residents from the southern port city, which is occupied by the Russians. The captives include several Orphans Promise volunteers, a driver, and an elderly couple who are the parents of a pastor who works with the ministry. Their whereabouts are unknown. Orphans Promise has a center and a residential home in Berdansk. The children are now safely in another country, but the team stayed to serve their community. They have been cooking food and delivering meals and other humanitarian aid to those in need. Please pray for them. Now, a unique stone from an unearthed synagogue where Jesus likely prayed has returned to its home in the Galilee. Take a look at why the Magdala stone is expected to be a special draw for visitors.
And 3.
Deemed by experts as one of Israel's most important discoveries, the Magdala stone spent years with the Israel Antiquities Authority, then went on an international tour with showings in New York and Rome.
I myself, with some other workers here, put in the truck that remove it from the site. So I said, bye, see you soon, to the stone at the beginning of January 2010. To see the stone coming back today is a big joy.
In 2009, archaeologists excavating here uncovered the original Magdala stone. This replica stands in the exact location where they found it.
The director of the Antiquities Authority at the time of the discovery, he came, he was looking around. He said, the Magdala stone has to come back here because this synagogue without the stone is like a beheaded body.
Known today as Magdala, Magdala was a city on the Sea of Galilee and known as the home of Mary Magdalene. In 2005, Father Juan Solana initiated the Magdala Project to highlight Jesus' ministry in the region and honor women of faith. They broke ground in 2009, and the center now includes an archaeological park, a chapel, and a hotel on the shores of the Sea of Galilee.
When I was about to buy the land at the very beginning, I thought it cannot belong to the Catholic Church, but all Christians, because Magdala, as a hometown of Mary Magdalene, is a treasure for all Christians. But when we discovered the synagogue and the entire town of Magdala from the first century, said it belongs not to all Christians, but also to the Jewish people.
Magdala stone is an unicum. It's a unique object. It is an unknown collection of what I think to be Jewish symbolism, which symbolizes the temple in Jerusalem.
Archaeologist Mordechai Aviam believes the stone held deep meaning for Jewish worshippers who couldn't make the weeks-long trek to Jerusalem and back.
They looked at the stone, they felt Jerusalem and the temple and God in their hearts, and that's the meaning of this stone.
My angle on Magdala are the people who come. So I'm always engaging the people who come, and really a cross-section of humanity comes here. And we say that the archaeology here is a crossroads of Jewish and Christian history, but that the spirit of Magdala is a crossroads for everybody.
Father Kelly says he believes the return of the original stone will draw people like a magnet.
Magdala is like an oasis of encounter. So here we have a great spirit of encounter, and I think this is going to give that further impulse because people will come and this will create conversation, dialogue, and quest for understanding. And that will be an opening to understanding the past and the present, and that's a pathway for the future.
Coming up, Let My People Know, the incredible story of Middle East peace and what lies ahead, a new book by R.A. Lightstone. R.A. Lightstone, a former advisor to former U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman, was one of the few people in the room when the historic Abraham Accords were discussed. In an interview with CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, Lightstone discusses his new book, Let My People Know, the incredible story of Middle East peace and what lies ahead.
R.A. Lightstone, great to be with you. You were a special advisor to the former U.S. Ambassador David Friedman, special envoy about the Abraham Accords, and now you've written a new book called Let My People Know, as opposed to Let My People Go.
That's right.
And the incredible story of Middle East peace and what lies ahead. Tell us what the book's about.
Well, the book is exactly what the title says, Let My People Know. I had the unique opportunity to sit here with Ambassador Friedman, and you know, we spent some time together day in, day out, and watch him, on behalf of President Trump, elevate the U.S.-Israel relationship. And that got a fair amount of attention, whether it was the recognition of Jerusalem, the moving of the embassy, the recognition of the Golan Heights, lots of various different prominent decisions that strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. And then the Abraham Accords break out. They break out on August 13th, 2020. And maybe the word breakout is wrong, as though they just happened out of nowhere. They happened because of brilliant diplomacy led by Jared Kushner and Avi Berkowitz and others. And from August 13th, 2020, when the first phone call happened in the Oval Office and between President Trump, then Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and then Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed to begin normalization between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, over the next 123 days, 5 different major peace agreements were signed, and nobody knows about it. This is peace in the Middle East, and people don't know about it. So I was in the room, so I wanted to let people know how exciting this was.
You were in the room. What did you hear in the room? What was going on in the room?
So the very first time that I was in a room for the Abraham Accords with the president was on August 13, 2020 at that phone call. And like any other phone call that we have on a conference call, people talk over each other, right? There's, can you hear me? And somebody has to repeat it again. You would think in the Oval Office, perhaps the technology would be slightly different, but like any other conference call, it had that very human moment. And then after the phone call where Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed said something very profound, he said, in the middle of COVID, if you remember August of 2020, it feels like everything is happening to us. We're reacting. And as leaders, it's tough to be in a position of always reacting. This is a moment to be proactive. And we're going to make a Middle East that is not determined based upon what it was. We're going to build a Middle East based upon what it can and should be. And I'll remember those words forever because he didn't need to do this, right? He took a risk. Normalizing with Israel and the Muslim Arab world hadn't happened for 25 years from any meaningful country. He is extremely well thought of in the Muslim Arab world, and he took a risk to say we will normalize with Israel. And it's not just normalize, we will embrace the relationship with Israel. And at that point in time, the president hangs up the phone, and there's just silence in the room because maybe 40 people knew about this prior to the phone call in the entire world, including all the Emiratis, all the Israelis, all the Americans, maybe 45 people knew. And the phone call ends, and there's sort of this moment. And Steven Mnuchin, the former Secretary of the Treasury, leaps out of his chair and leads a round of applause. There are no cameras in the room, there's no video in the room, but there was this acknowledgement that there was this moment where the world changed based upon this phone call, and my heart still leaps every time I think of that moment.
Yeah, part of your subtitle says, what lies ahead in the Middle East? What do you think lies ahead?
So in this region, David Friedman would always say, if you're not strong, you're dead, which is correct. If you're not strong, you're dead. I would like to add a statement to that I've seen to be very true. If you're not clear, you cause chaos. Yeah, so for the region, what lies ahead, I think, are two different things. Number one is the question of peace in the region is a question of when and not if. I think when John Kerry began with no, 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 the answer today is yes, yes, yes. Now the question is when. And that will have to deal with whether the United States of America wants to lead on this or it wants to follow.
Well, Aryeh Lightstone, thanks for your insight analysis in your new book, Let My People Know. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Chris.
Up next, a unique program in Jerusalem to address the problem of child sex abuse. Child sex abuse is a worldwide problem, and as CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell tells us, here in Jerusalem, the city is addressing this issue with a unique program, along with the help from some friends.
This presentation to school children, called Le Pet Pee in Hebrew, or Dare to Share in English, is the beginning of an outreach to Jerusalem schools. The program they're presenting to the children here today to prevent sexual abuse will go to all the schools here in Jerusalem, and they believe to different parts of the world. Shneur Walker and Ran Yehoshua developed this program 7 years ago.
We understand that just an ounce of prevention is better than a whole pound of healing, of curing. And if we manage to create these child sexual abuse prevention programs and connect between children and parents and teachers and give them the tools and create an environment when predators are scared to abuse children, we can create a safer world for children.
Yet too often, the world is not a safe place.
Worldwide, data, different surveys state that 1 out of every 5 children are abused between the age of 6 and the age of 18. Not only in the short term, but in the long term, sexual abuse can have a devastating effect on personality of children. It's as if the personality has a crack.
What we do know is that after programs, we are told by the adults, the teachers, and the parents of the children that there is much more communication and discourse on the topic that there hadn't been before. And sadly or happily, I'm not even sure where to put it, but cases do come out of abuses that have happened that might not have been exposed if the children hadn't gone through the program.
Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Leon honored Dennis and Kayatami for making it possible for Dare to Share to reach all of Jerusalem's 75 schools. Their donation was made in the memory of their 2 sons, John and Jeff.
We lost our children in a farm accident in 1981. John was 12 and Jeff was 11. And this is how we're touching other children in memory of them. And it is a very humbling experience for us. It's tearful. So this program of the music and the program of the sexual abuse that is being launched in memory of our children is an ongoing thing. And we are pleased to be here in Jerusalem to launch the program. And it's a great honor and it's a great humbling experience for us.
We would like to acknowledge one other person. You know, we're all partners in this. But the way we found out was Schnorr's father. His name is Kalman Walker. He knew that Kay and I, our vision was to bless Israel. And so when he heard what the mayor's office was proposing, he sent an email to us. I read the email to Kay, and in 5 minutes, we sent back and said, yes, that's us.
Mayor Leon presented the Atamis with a certificate of appreciation.
I understand that this project is in memory of your 2 sons, John and Jeff. In a way, you are creating an everlasting bond with the children of Jerusalem. May their memories be a blessing. And I want to present to you this certificate of appreciation, naming you the guardians of the children of Jerusalem.
All this program here in Jerusalem is thanks to Dennis and Kay Itami. Kay had a dream, like a prophecy. She understood that she wants to do good to the children of Jerusalem. And we approached them just as was possible for them and the municipality and them joined together to do this program in Jerusalem. And we're thrilled because this is the opening shot. And we're going to be going into 75 elementary schools. And this is going to have impact on tens of thousands of children in Jerusalem, in the holy city of Jerusalem, with people from all sectors. And I'm overcome with emotion.
For the Atamis, it's a partnership they share with the people and the children of Jerusalem.
So as we all move together, as we all move forward together, let us each and all be blessed by God and be a blessing ourselves.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Yefei Elementary School, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, a professional Russian tennis player who's risking all to help Ukrainian refugees in Poland.
Thank you for watching Jerusalem Dateline. We're committed to providing you with unbiased reporting from the Holy Land. Through weekly broadcasts, podcasts, and online media, our vision is to reach millions around the globe with the true story of what's happening in Israel and the Middle East, all from a biblical and prophetic perspective. This is a big vision and is only made possible by the generous support of people like you.
Call us toll-free at 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/Jerusalem Dateline and make a donation that will help spread the light of truth about Israel throughout the world.
Many Russians don't agree with their government's invasion of Ukraine. Some are doing what they can to help those suffering from the war. That's why one Russian professional tennis player volunteered with CBN to help Ukrainian refugees in Poland.
Artem is a volunteer. He is a Russian helping Ukrainian refugees.
So when I was passing one hamburger to one young girl from Ukraine, I told her, here's a burger, and and she asked, where are you from? I said, I'm from Russia, and I'm here because I love you guys. And she said, that's good, but I don't love you. And at that point, I said, I understand you. I think that you have the right to say that because of what's happening in your country. And I'm so sorry for that. But God loves you, and I would never want to see that thing happening. And in a few seconds, she looked at me and she said, maybe you're the only person out of all Russians that I can love.
Artem is a professional tennis player from St. Petersburg, Russia. When the war broke out in Ukraine, he went to Warsaw to help the Ukrainian refugees fleeing to Poland.
God loves every single person, and especially the poor. So My heart is after those people who are experiencing grief, experiencing pain, and to help them in any way possible, but also to introduce to them the good news, the things that can really change their lives.
Artem volunteers with Orphans Promise and Operation Blessing. In addition to providing physical help to people, volunteers share the gospel in these refugee homes. In one home, 6 people were recently baptized after they gave their lives to Jesus. For that, Artem is very thankful.
Yeah, because it's the best thing that can happen to someone. God changed my life 6 years ago, and I would not want to trade it for anything. It's the best decision I made, and I see the fruits that God brings out of that. And when the person receives Jesus, when the person sees this new life and starts living as a disciple, that's the real change that happens in the life of a person.
Artem says he understands the risk involved being a Russian helping the people of Ukraine, but he says he believes God has called him to be there for such a time as this.
God puts us in extreme seasons sometimes, and this is the season where I believe He's calling people in, and He's asking us to be actively involved in His work. And I wouldn't want to trade this place for anything else right now. If tomorrow I see a Ukrainian in heaven and he or she says that they're there because of me, then I would be so honored. No better, no higher privilege than that.
That's a brave man. Let's remember to pray for all those who are suffering from the war. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blasts so you can continue to receive all of our exciting CBN content. I'm Julie Stahl. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.